Have you ever met someone who washes their hands again and again, even when they are perfectly clean? Maybe you have seen someone scrub their hands for minutes, walk away, and then come right back to the sink. At first glance, it might look like a habit. Or maybe just someone who really loves being clean, but the truth is much deeper than that. And today, we are going to explore the dark psychology behind this behavior. Let's start with a simple question. What is the difference between being clean and being obsessed with cleanliness? A normal person washes their hands before eating, after using the bathroom, or when they feel dirty. It takes about 20 seconds and then they move on with their life. But for some people, it is never enough. They wash their hands and the moment they are done, a voice inside their head says, "Are you sure they are clean? What if there is still something there? What if you get sick?" And just like that, they are back at the sink. This is not a choice. This is a trap, and the name of this trap is OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. OCD is one of the most misunderstood mental health conditions in the world. Most people think OCD just means being neat or organized. They use it casually, "Oh, I am so OCD about my desk," but real OCD is nothing like that. Real OCD is a cycle of pure psychological torture. It starts with an obsession, an unwanted thought that enters the mind and refuses to leave. For hand washers, this thought is usually about contamination. They fear germs, bacteria, viruses, or even invisible dirt. The thought feels so real and so threatening that the brain sends a full panic signal to the body. Now here is where the dark psychology comes in. To calm that panic, the person performs a compulsion, in this case, washing their hands. And the moment they wash their hands, the anxiety goes down. They feel a brief moment of relief. But that relief teaches the brain something very dangerous. It teaches the brain that washing hands is the solution to fear. So the next time the obsessive thought comes, the brain immediately demands the same solution: wash your hands, and the cycle begins again. Over time, it gets worse. The person needs to wash more times, for longer, with more soap, in a specific pattern, just to feel the same amount of relief. Psychologists call this the OCD loop, and once you are inside it, getting out is extremely difficult. But why does this happen in the first place? Why do some people develop this obsession with contamination? Research in psychology and neuroscience shows that the brains of people with OCD actually function differently. There is a part of the brain called the orbitofrontal cortex, which is responsible for detecting threats and sending warning signals. In people with OCD, this part of the brain is overactive. It sees danger where there is none. It sends false alarms constantly. Imagine a fire alarm in your house that goes off randomly, not because there is a fire, but just because it is broken. That is what living with OCD feels like. The alarm never stops, and washing hands is the only way to temporarily silence it. There's also a deep emotional layer to this. Many people with obsessive hand washing have experienced trauma, extreme stress, or periods of feeling out of control in their lives. When everything feels chaotic and unpredictable, the mind searches for something it can control. And washing hands becomes that one thing. It feels like a shield, a ritual, a way of saying, "At least this one thing I can control." This is why OCD often gets worse during periods of high anxiety or major life changes. The outside world feels threatening, so the compulsion intensifies. Now let us talk about the cost of this behavior, because it is not just about clean hands. People with severe hand-washing OCD often have cracked, bleeding, and painful skin from constant washing. They avoid social situations because they are afraid of touching things. They cannot hold a job properly. They cannot enjoy a meal without anxiety. Simple things like shaking someone's hand or opening a door become terrifying. Their whole world shrinks around this one obsession. And the cruelest part is they know it does not make logical sense. They know their hands are probably clean, but they cannot stop. The brain will not let them, so what can be done? The most effective treatment for OCD is a specific type of therapy called exposure and response prevention, or ERP. In this therapy, the person is gradually exposed to the thing they fear, like touching a doorknob, and then they are guided to resist the compulsion to wash their hands. Over time, the brain learns that the feared consequence never actually happens. The false alarm slowly gets quieter. It is not easy. It is actually one of the hardest things a person can go through, but it works. Combined with medication in some cases, many people with OCD are able to reclaim their lives. The important thing to understand is this: people who wash their hands obsessively are not strange. They are not dramatic. They are not doing it for attention. They are fighting a psychological battle that most of us cannot even imagine. Their mind has turned one of the most basic human actions into a source of terror, and they deserve compassion, not judgment. If you or someone you know shows signs of OCD, please take it seriously. Talk to a mental health professional. Because no one should be a prisoner inside their own mind. That is it for today. If you found this valuable, share it with someone who needs to hear it.